Ciao a tutti, sono Matteo e benvenuti a ROPEFLOW lacordanomente. Anche questa volta, come vedete, sono con degli amici dalle Filippine e sono Ray e Arman di ROPEFLOW Philippines. Welcome everybody, hi!
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello,
Man,
hello,
the
hello.
Italian is so cool. Italian sounds so cool to you, man.
How goes in the island?
Oh, good here. It's hot.
Yes.
Hot here. It's humid.
A bird told me that you are the second community of ROPEFLOW in the world. You're something that driving the community in somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
the
of
bird
course.
talks a lot.
Ooh, who's this bird?
So,
That bird is
I
allowed to
started
say.
this journey through the ROPEFLOW community. I already talked with David Weck, I talked with the Italian guys, and now I have to talk with you because, especially you, Ray, you were my first ROPEFLOW coach because I started from the tutorial of ROPEFLOW Philippines and I remember
Thank you.
training of David Wax too. So for me it's
Oh, that's
exciting
an honor.
to be here.
Ah, the excitement's mine. The excitement's always mine.
Yes. Hi, my name
You're
is
older.
Arman. Yes, I'm older. Yes, probably one of the older ROPEFLOW practitioners here.
The elder.
Yes. That's actually a very good name. I've been called worse. But yeah, I'm a physical therapist by profession. I discovered ROPEFLOW through David Weck. I'm also very new, back in 2018, new in Instagram, and I was just following one of my head coaches' list of people that influence him in his practice in strength and conditioning.
Okay.
So as I was building my own portfolio on my Instagram page and creating and collecting followers that could influence me positively in my practice as, of course, physical therapist, I came across Venus Fit to Fab running inside the wet lab with an egg shaker.
Yeah, the
Now
pulses.
called the Propulsors.
Pulsers.
I followed the link and it led me to David Weck. I watched David Weck's video in September 2019. I saw this guy, David Weck, who I never knew at that point, except that I knew he was the founder or he invented the Bosu ball. He was making the rope go through him without jumping. And I was like mind blown. Like, what's going on? So it was more like, I saw David Weck as a magician at that point. But it's something that I could do because I kind of like magic. So I learned all his content and technique. And at that point, the reason why I was in Instagram because I was researching on different ways to make people move and feel better. You know, as a physical therapist, you know, my job is to rehabilitate people from injuries, from accidents, from surgeries, age, yes. Upon my, self-practice, I didn't really think of teaching it to other people. I saw within myself the benefits of moving with the dragon roll and the race and chase and the underhand and overhand patterns. You know, it was instantaneous that I found out that it could help my patients with frozen shoulder, with rotator cuff tears, with scoliosis, and I slowly added it in my therapeutic intervention in my clinic here in the Philippines. So it's a specialized sports healthcare facility for different levels of athletes. And at that time, it was amazing because one of the major things I have problems with patients is exercise compliance. When I teach ROPEFLOW, I didn't have to tell them twice or three times, did you do your exercise? Did you do your range of motion? They would do their race and chase and drag and roll and they get better and my life got easier.
Yeah.
But on a personal note, it was so much fun doing it and I felt lonely. So I figured, you know what, let me teach it to some of my patients that I knew would find interest in it, and that was Coach Pai and Coach Ange. They were a patient of mine. They had wrist injuries from practicing animal flow, all right, because they were really into it, and of course, overuse will get to them. And they did rope flow, and their wrist pain kind of went away because of the traction that the momentum of the rope made them feel. So fast forward, that was pre-pandemic. Pandemic hit. Everyone was stuck at home. No one knew what to do except for rope flow. Rope flow was meant to be done alone in a confined space where you need social distancing because you can't hit.
Unfortunately.
And it's a very cheap and easy way to exercise. You only need cordage. Yeah, it was there, and then it grew. The page grew, the followers grew. Now, all the way around the world, we're talking about it, having fun, reaping the benefits out of it, and all because of David Weck's Dragon Rope. And everyone's all benefiting about it, really. So yeah, that's basically the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, it's cool because if you think about it, the very first step of rope flow in the worldwide, maybe it's across 2019 and 2020, and if you think at that time the world, it was take a break from the world.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we were all stuck at home doing nothing, just waiting the world start spinning again. A lot of people closing their homes discover something new. Maybe a lot of people create something. I have some friends who create a music band that now are creating a lot of disc, very nice disc, for example. Or for me, I'm a drawer too, and I start drawing a lot more, and I create a lot of things, amazing things during the lockdown. And about you, Arman, you start with rope flow. You allow rope flow stay in your life because your life at that time was sad because of the pandemic, and so you create something new. You give to yourself something special to take your mind away from the problems, from the very sad moments. Especially for you, you work with people, you help people to stay healthy. And if you can touch people, if you can stay close to people, how can you work?
Yeah, it allowed me to do my job without needing to be with them at that time until now, to be safe, to keep us safe from this pandemic. But what was also interesting is, I'm not very a social person by nature. But with rope flow and then the community that came with it, because I did not know anything about social media, creating communities, creating content, anything technological for that matter.
Okay.
But then the people that I taught knew those things and they helped me. Ray is a good example. He taught me so much about, just again, adding layers and skills to create this community.
Basically, my background is I'm a yoga teacher. I've been practicing since 2013, technically. And then I'm also a flow artist. So I was a flow artist before I started doing rope flow. When I got in, it was funny because when I saw rope flow, at first I was like, it's like, one of those Octo Moves ads on Instagram back in 2019. And I'm like, okay, yeah,
It's funny.
cool. Yeah, that looks cool, but what is cooler? I was like,
That's so cool.
so
Cool as hell.
yeah, and then like for some reason, like after seeing that video, I think it just stuck in my mind because there was this one time during the same thing during the pandemic, I was doing some flow arts in the basketball court, and then a friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine, who was also one of the coaches of Coach Arman from Focus. She was like, "Hey man, let me give you something," and I'm like, "What's that?" "Give me a rope," and I'm like, "Hey, I know this. This is that rope octo something flow moves. What was that? Yeah, it's what that. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So he showed me some of the moves which I already understood because of like playing around with the poi and the staff and stuff like that. So the figure eight, that wasn't that hard to like put together. So add another swing, you have your matador. Okay, I'll turn your body and then try to swing it this way, then that way. Like, that's the dragon move. Oh, okay, all right. So I got it real quick, just because of my background, So it was very helpful. It took me a couple of weeks to get sneak. But when I got it, I was like, "What now?"
What now?
I was like, "What now? That's it? That's all of the moves you're gonna show me? That's all the moves I'm gonna do with this rope? Jesus, seriously?" But then it came to a point where I suddenly saw Arman's video on Instagram of him doing the tandem seek, and I was like, "How do you do that? How do you do that?" So
What kind
I
of
started trying to
sorcery
figure it out.
is this?
I was trying to figure it out, right? So I was trying to figure that out. The next morning after I saw it, and then 3 hours after, I still couldn't get it. The same afternoon, I did it again for another 3 hours. I still didn't get it. It kept happening and happening and happening. It kept happening until I met Arman, and then he talked to me, and I was like, "That's it? That's it? This is how you do it?" I'm like, "What? What?" I thought there was something more to it, but that's what blew my mind. So that 3 hours of trying to do it built up my own practice, because from then I started following different people. I started following David Beck. I started following Way of the Moves, Way of the Rope, then Octo Moves, and then I saw Chosen Path, and I was like, "Hey, this guy is doing something awesome," and he was doing the bowlers. I was like, "Hey, bowlers, they look cool. Yeah, try that out." Yeah, boom, boom, boom. And then so it was actually from then on, suddenly it became very intuitive for my body to practice 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. And then having that background in flow arts, having that background in yoga, basically having that background in movement was so helpful because I was always an active kid. So it gave me a way to channel my boredom and my wanting to do something into trying to discover new things about this rope. I know it's not just all matadors or race and chases. I'm sure there must be something more. And so, and then I was invited to join ROPEFLOW Philippines. I did. Now for me, it's just all about really wanting to get the word out there, wanting to show people the possibilities of the practice itself. The mission also goes back to going grassroots. You try to go back to the foundations. You try to go back to the basics. See what else is there that you probably missed, or that anybody missed, and then you suddenly discover, oh, there's something there, and then that's a new thing that people can build upon. So for me, I think that's my journey now. What more can we discover from these foundational movements, and how we can translate that into more of the advanced movements. And so I think that's one of the things that I also enjoy telling people is it feels weird right now, but you do it enough times, it won't. And then I remember my practice of yoga. There was a lot of poses that's that feels weird. Yeah, right, now it does. And then after a couple of weeks, okay, that's fresh. What? This feels so normal.
So quick, in just a few minutes, a totally flow me level 0 start rolling the rope, and maybe he hit the face, he hit the back, he hit the legs, and say, wait, whoa, I have it, it's amazing, it's so quick to learn, and somehow after a certain period of time that you focus on training, everyone enter in the flow state, in that bubble that allow you to focus with the rope, to merge with the practice. It's a law. It's something like a law. It happened. I know it will happen.
And the cool thing about it is the carry over to everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Things just get a bit easier to do because you're more mobile. You have better proprioception, and you kind of are not lost you're not lost in this four, 5-dimensional world that we live in. So you know where your right arm is going. You know that it can touch the left pinky toe. So and you know where your body is at a certain point in time. It's helped me a lot with balance, not just like in physical balance, but also slowly with organizational balance, work, life, balance,
weight shifting.
Yeah. It's also helped me with balance in like my own personal life. So I think the practice itself has a lot to teach people with not just how to move their bodies, but also a way to live life in a perspective, like in the perspective of yes, things just happen, things just work naturally, and the more you move, the more you get through life, because life will never get easier, right? But you will always get better at it. So, I think this is one of the tools that helps you get better at it.
Yeah.
So,
Share that. Like for me, I'm coming from a medical background because I really use ROPEFLOW as a medical intervention for my patients. And what I did understand, even though there's no research, no randomized controlled studies, no long-term studies and results from it, anecdotally and through experience, and then of course through testimonials from my clients, it's an easy way to make people work out. Like I told earlier, the compliance component of making people do their therapeutic exercise is tremendous. It doesn't take a lot to improve joint surface and stimulate synovial fluid production. Forgive me if I'm being medical, but what happens is if and also the movement starts from the brain. If you're not motivated to move it, your cartilage will dry up.
I had that problem to my knees on my cartilage because in 2018 I was doing a workshop, a Parkour workshop, and I started to feel a lot of pain in my knees. I say, what happened now? And I discovered that my cartilage is drying up after 13 years of parkour.
Yes.
And because I'm not a teenager anymore, and so my body is changing, and my practice it was still in the background, and my knees was changing. And nowadays I use glucosamine, for example,
Yes.
for my knees, but I stopped with that pills after ROPEFLOW. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at how anatomy and physiology goes, everything has to start from the nervous system. And a lot of times, if you were in pain, some nervous systems get stunted, for protection. And it doesn't matter where in your body, from your knee, from your hip, there's going to be a maladaptation for protection, because that's our first line of defense. On a biological level, every cell is first meant to survive and protect from harm. But as we all know, there's another layer to that, which is quality of life.
Yeah.
So where does that margin end? And that's where me as a physical therapist, that's my job, is to break that margin between protection and quality of life, adaptation. And with ROPEFLOW, it makes it fun. So you have that psychological reinforcement, you have your community and social reinforcement because of ROPEFLOW also, but more so, you create an experience where you collect evidence of improvement. It's like you don't have to convince yourself you're getting better, you just are.
Yeah.
It started with an Instagram page, basically. I was literally forced by Coach Andro, who's also known as Banana, to create a page because his clientele was very interested in learning how to flow or roll the rope and getting ropes. And the information needed to be centralized, at least for our area in the Philippines. So me, not knowing anything, decided to create a page And then I created like small posts on, basically a small library of how I interpreted the racing chase,
Okay.
Matador's Hero.
Yeah, your
So
personal
that,
touch.
yeah, my personal touch. And it was basic. There was no flow, actually. The word bro flow, I got it from Bro Flow Academy. I don't think David Duweck, I didn't hear him say bro flow. He just said RMP training at that time. So, and then of course, Optimoves. I mean, Rokas really did it good. He did it right, and he was a big influence in what I did for the page was at least as a Filipino, I understood what would attract the market, which is musicality, all right, intricacy, and it should not be serious. Okay? You try, you fail, you try, you fail, you try, you succeed. Rinse and repeat. So mistakes were often shown in the contents of the page. Good music was a part of the creation of the page, and then of course highlighting different people, at least people who are trying. So I was in my phone 6 hours a day, just going through everything raw flow and trying to curate content for the page that would attract the Filipino population. It attracted one particular person, a very influential fitness person here in the country, which had like 2 million followers. She posted, yes, her name is Ellen Agarna, and she's a very successful jump roper, who's also an actress, a model. And everyone followed her. When all her 2 million followers at that time saw she was doing raw flow, it went berserk. and that's where the serious work happened.
So I from the social network, your videos, your content from fitness influencer are similar to the Americans, but have a personal Filipino touch that I really like.
Yeah, it had to be that way because I don't know anything else. Right.
Something that I noticed with us Filipinos, and maybe something to give you context, is that we're very expressive people. We like to express a lot of things, but a lot of the things that we express more often than not, we don't usually say as often as other people in other cultures do. So the way that we express it is very artistic, whether it's in music, whether it's in painting, even dance or drama. So even movement, no matter the movement practices that people do from a discipline becomes an expression. So it's a lot of bodily expression that a lot of Filipinos or that Filipinos also turn to.
What I see from your videos, it's you are a culture of people that really loves movement, that really loves to express themselves from movement, and I think it's similar to Indonesian culture. I don't know, all the archipelago in that part of the world have similar culture, like maybe somehow Japan too, or away. And, it's
Central and South America
had
shown so much interest and have contacted us on how to develop their own community. So very nice.
I like the typical. The typical atmosphere that creates in your videos, the color, the music, the smile of the people. I really want to go to Philippines one day.
Oh, please. Come on.
You're welcome here. Yeah, you're welcome
down.
here, man.
In which
So,
part
like,
of
for-
Philippines you are?
We're in Manila.
Manila.
We're in the
Yeah.
northern island, and we're in the south part of the northern island.
Yes,
Just a minute.
because maybe the Italian watchers really don't know the Philippine maps, and maybe they don't know where Manila is, or I don't know if Arman live in a place different from Ray, and maybe
Actually, neighbors.
because the
So-
island is 3 kilometers.
Yes. It's a very diverse country because we're an archipelago. I mean, we are connected as a republic, but culturally, just a few hundred
Yeah,
kilometers it could be totally different.
I imagine
Um,
it's hard to take a singular unified culture. Maybe that island have a, I don't know,
oh God.
another language, another slang. I don't know. Maybe they want to talk in English.
Because you're talking about language, I realized that, or Rosa helped me realize that movement is really a language. Like it's something that people know how to speak and know how to interpret without having to say it. So you really feel what the person is trying to say, or what that person is trying to do, or what that person is trying to express. And even if it's like someone who's like new to the practice, they really tried their all, and you can see the persistence, the effort. And for me, I think that's one of the most beautiful experiences I've had teaching the practice, is seeing people get out of their skin and or like not get out of their skin and expand their comfort zone, the comfort zone with movement, and seeing that. Whoa! I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
something
cool.
like a therapy. It happens in parkour too, because sometimes the first time a new student comes to me to learn parkour, maybe they are shy and their posture was like, "Hi, my name is Tim. I want to learn parkour." And after a few months, the position
Yeah.
started to stay straight, and the way they talk is changed, the way they move their hands, the way they think
Right.
about their possibilities totally changed. It was something like a
Right. Right.
therapy, a
Right.
moving therapy.
That's what it felt for me. I honestly for a while thought, I'm like, what else am I gonna do with my life? And then suddenly this came up, and I'm like, I know what I can do with my life. And that's actually what led me to explore my current profession right now, which is actually, just to immerse myself more into the fitness industry. So I decided to become a coach.
I saw it develop from a single IG page that turned into a IG and then a Facebook page. There's no TikTok. And then the YouTube kind of happened a little later, actually. Not until Ray came in our team August 2020. Is that right?
Okay.
August, because the page was developed April 2020. I started September 2019. And it was great because it was an opportunity for us to restructure and refine the way we create content and engage with people.
Okay.
And because of the social media system, it created a person to person and business to business engagement. So from one person interest to their community interest. Hey, I think I have a family that wants to do row flow. I think I want like my neighbors to do row flow. Can we invite you? So that had happened. Businesses from different malls have invited us to do like open session of beginner classes for
Okay.
their tenants and customers that are visiting in the area, different regions and provinces with parks who want to gather and have an activity, even schools and student activities and sporting activities want to invite us to add a little bit of a movement practice that's new and interesting. Snowballed into different government organizations like our Department of Science and Technology. We're trying to see if they can codify the rope and turn it into something technologically advanced. The Department of Health through our orthopedic department, through the
Yeah.
physical medicine rehabilitation department, cardiology. Some cancer doctors are showing interest. Neurology.
Pediatrics is also
Pediatrics,
showing
yes.
yeah.
So from abused kids to moms who are trying to get out of postpartum depression, it's just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
David Weck saw this as an avenue for performance training and sports
Professional
enhancement.
sport.
I think that's the main difference with ROPEFLOW Philippines. We're tackling everything else,
Mm-hmm.
from the medical, from mental health, from performing arts. Our Department of Tourism are trying to turn us into a cultural dance.
Yeah,
So,
it starts from how the community the local community have interest in the practice, like say the medical department or the schools or I don't know.
Yes.
It all spreads from there. It is there where it changed from a normal sport, just training, and it become physical education.
Yeah, the greatest example I want to give is application for the kids. As it is with the pandemic, physical education is done. There's no one out there going in the playground, doing organized sports, at least it's coming back. But the side effects of them not moving has been so bad for these kids physically and mentally. And some people that have shown interest in RoFlow has seen a lot of benefits on their children, on their students, on, with the simple rope. You're starting to have fun. They're moving around, and they're learning so much faster than adults.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice because for
Oh,
the
my
kids, it's just a play. You're playing with the rope, and when you're playing, you discover what is behind the practice. And imagine it's amazing for an adult. Imagine for a kid.
No, it's like blah. I could easily imagine RoFlow being underneath everything else. And if you want to have some competency in being athletic, in being artistic, in exploring how to identify yourself with the world, RoFlow can be that common denominator that is easily applicable to anyone at any age, at any gender, at any capability. I have a patient who has Parkinson's disease, who's wheelchair bound, and she's doing RoFlow because it allows her to sense her transition from offline to midline. That's so important.
Yeah.
All right. I have a kid who can't go to school because she can't sit in the computer to do her class because of scoliosis, and now she's able to finish college because she's staying free from doing a lot of these coiling and figure eight, and that's where we see it going.
Yeah. For example, when I was a kid, I was maybe 12 years ago, since I was 17. I have scoliosis.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I have both the kyphosis and the scoliosis. So my back, I was like this and this. I don't know how to say in English, but I used for 4 years, 12 hours a day.
In a brace.
Yeah, it was one of the most sad moments of my life, because imagining an early teenager goes to school with that chest protection, it was something like an armor, and anybody try to hug you or touch you, say, hey, what's wrong? Don't worry, it's a problem to my back. And it wasn't easy, but after that, I discovered several ways to focus on my back. I do physiotherapy, I do break dance, I do swimming,
Wow.
I do everything, and I never thought to my back as a broken tool.
That's amazing. That really is. And now RoFlow is another tool.
Yeah. I never had back pain after my practice, even after parkour practice. I never felt problem from my knees, and the problem to my cartilage is not only from the knees, especially the thumb knuckle, or somehow the elbow and the shoulder, and it changed. Some days the knee, some days in the hand, some days in the head, in the shoulder. And after RoFlow, my body goes through something healthy transformation. Right.
Especially if you coil a lot, man. That coiling.
Yeah, the coiling, it's a healing movement.
Yes.
It is a very healing movement. And one thing I noticed about it, I don't really have any scientific evidence for it, but then I honestly feel that it touches a lot of the lymphatic system of the body. And I get some of my students to start out with the coil. After like a couple of reps, everybody's already sweating. They just hold it for like 5 seconds and boom, sweat starts happening.
Yesterday, I do 2 or 3 sessions, a very cardio session with the music, and and I say, it's just 480 grams of rope. It's light, but it's changed everything. It's really literally changed everything.
Okay, yeah. So I think I'd love to see like some other fields that don't really necessarily take the body into account, but then they suddenly do because shucks, there's something there. There's a lot of physics involved with rope flow.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there is that interest there. So I see it in a good 10 years, basically, like somebody can just teach rope flow to somebody, and that person will get it instantly. Just because everybody's doing it, like a huge number of people are doing it, so the movement acquisition becomes much more familiar because you're seeing it. I can see it not just being the next big thing, but I can see it as something that's already a big thing that just keeps growing and growing and expanding and expanding, and it's like digging deeper and deeper into its roots and practices all around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really hope that this kind of practice spreads all over the world in a very unique way, because I can see nowadays that it's something that talks to people. Okay, the rope flow talks to people who need it, because some people maybe have stereotype about rope training, and they think rope training is just for a boxer, it's just for a youngster doing
Yeah.
tricks, but it's different. It's something that, as I said, is something like a dynamo, because the rolling movement, the patterns, the loop that you create trigger energy in your body. And I'm not talking about the spiritualism or like this. I just saying actual things
Yeah.
that happens when you train. It starts from the inside, and from the outside you can see just someone rolling a rope, but inside and outside there's something that are connecting, that are stimulating, that are communicating. And through the position transition and the keeping of the role, it's something like coordination therapy, and your neuromotor way of thinking about movement is changed. In just a few seconds of session, you are already able to understand something new about you. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's something innate. With the figure eights and coiling the core, there's a lot of reflexive patterns that have been dampened because of our modern human movement, which is basically nothing really. It's just all sagittal plane,
Yeah,
and then more transverse
yeah,
plane,
yeah.
so coronal.
For
So
example,
going into this rotation, a lot of oblique stuff. I mean, if you cut open a human being, there's nothing straight about it.
Like for me, when I realized and when I started understanding more about rotational movement, it kind of helped me become much better at vertical movements. It helped me become better at doing horizontal movements and even diagonal movements. So a lot of like rotational movements has just brought a lot of perspective in my head. And I realized, man, there's a lot of ways that we move that's very natural, but at the same time, it's also unnatural. Weird when I try to walk normally without the rotation. And I feel like tired walking.
Yeah, for example, there's some exercise we do for as a warm up in parkour. For example, we start doing this. Okay, sometimes I was doing this, talking with my students, no, and then I discovered that I stopped doing this like a prayer, and I start doing. And the students say, "What are you doing?" Oh, I'm sorry. Somehow, exploration of rope flow word is teaching to me personal vocabulary during the lessons. In the parkour, it was easy to work with teenager or younger. You don't need technical speech about teaching. You don't mention the sagittal plane or something like that, or the joints. It's boring because they're just kids. They just want to have fun with parkour. In rope flow, I discover a personal way to bring person to understand what is a plane of your body, why something distal have to be proximal, and somehow you have to move your body. And so it's funny. It's stimulating for me as a professional coach, and it helped me to make possible to people understand their body, their possibility, the way how the body machine works. And maybe Arman can understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
for sure.
easy. It's not easy when you have a technical understanding and knowledge of something to let the mortal people understand.
Yeah, but the general population doesn't give a shit on the scientific stuff. They really don't. But I do understand that it needs to be visually interesting.
The people have to know that during sport, every kind of sport, it happens a lot of things inside your body. There's a lot of process, chemical process,
Yeah.
the interaction between system and tissues.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's reality. Okay, our body is something like a machine that have pipes, liquids that have share each other and try to move mechanism. It's the same, just a machine. Okay, and so when you train yourself in something more global, okay, something that have a synergy inside, your machine works better. Okay, it's something like
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
a program inside a machine, and the machine start to works better because the program is better, and the way you interact with your body can do amazing thing.
Well, with row flow as a clinician, I see it as a very, very fun way to diagnose the machine. In my experience, I had the hardest time doing an underhand sneak because I didn't have very good shoulder mobility and thoracic spine mobility until I developed that. And then I was able to complete the pattern, get the rope through and around me, and not hit me. It was that simple in my head. And then for other people that can't do the pattern or have pain or discomfort in one thing, it kind of tells me, hey, I know exactly what's going on because the rope's hitting you this way is because, this part of your body is not moving well, it's kind of tight, this is not activating, it's loose, and so on and so forth. And as a coach, it's fun. It's fun to do that. It's fun to feel at home for your client, whether group or individual. Because that gives us significance. We're here to solve a problem.
The flow state for me, it's always going to be like a conversation. That's the best way that I can describe it, and also because when I get into conversation, when I get into dialogue, it's easy for me to tap into the flow state. So, because it felt like it was a conversation with the rope. The way that my body reacted would show through how the rope would move. That I do with my body, if I bring my arm wide or if I bring my arm far from it in different directions, they act upon the rope. So that also becomes a conversation of how I can reach more like a deeper dialogue with the rope. And the rope responds to me. It either hits me or it shows me something new that can be integrated into something else. It's hard to put into words, but essentially it's just like a lot of discovering things that you already know, but you see it in a different way, being less shy about the movement, the unique movement print of a person. Or another term is what Arman usually says, like the flow signature. For lack of better term, awakening and recognizing my personal movement print. Like this is me. Like this is my movement print. Like you can try it. You can definitely try it. But it will not be the same because you have your own movement print. And so it led me to realizing that everybody has this, everybody can access this, they can transcend it even beyond the rope and actually make it something that they get to do in everyday life. You know, it's like you see that person walking, gosh, that's definitely Mateo. You know, something like that. No, that's definitely Arman. How do you know? Look at the gait. It's definitely Arman. That's his movement. That's his movement print. You know, so something like that. You get to identify somebody because of their movement.
It's true. Sometimes I watch you, Ray, or Good Flow do the same pattern, but it's different. If I do the dragon head, for example, no. If I watch my video doing a dragon head, I say, okay, it's fine. I like it. I like the way it ends. I like the way it's look. When I saw the dragon head by Ray, by Good Flow, by Arman, it's different. There's something in the arms. There's something in the chest. There's something in the feeling and the intention you do this. It's different. It's something. Listening to three different piano players doing the same notes, it's different because the touch, the moving on the hands, the interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you ever get yourself in the position where you see and witness like 10 to 15 people doing even just a Maki roll, like, and they're doing it all in a synchronous pace. You see the rope and how it's traveling. Okay, yeah, it's synchronous. But when you look at the little idiosyncrasies of the body itself, you'll see that there's so much differences happening. But it's executing in the same way. All of the ropes are moving in a unison, but the bodies are moving differently.
And especially, it's a social thing. It's a social movement. Yeah. Because if you go on Instagram, on Facebook, or TikTok, you can get whatever you want about rope flow. You can see a lot of different flow their ropes and discover that maybe somehow Ray discover a new movement, and that movement are replicate to a guy from the other side of the world and start spreading. And so it's amazing because I don't know how many things nowadays, especially from the fitness, start from a single video and spreading in a viral way in this potential. Okay, it's amazing. We can watch a lot of things spreading in a few days just because a lot of influencer or I don't know start talking about this or doing this. I really want to watch in the future, try to understand how many way we have to spread the.
It's growing at a rate where it's still easy to contain.
Mm-hmm.
And then the moment that it grows exponentially, I'm seeing that there will be enough people knowledgeable enough to actually serve and cater to those who are beginning, to those who are starting and wanting to get into the practice.
Yes, I thank you so much because I really need to I really need help to explain people what rope flow is and why don't you use YouTube or other kind of way to let people understand. It's like a thematic channel, you know.
It's just fun. It's fun to see this grow. I've never thought in my wildest dream that I was just doing this by myself in September 2019. It was just me in this island, and then now like the Philippines is all trying to be flowies.
Yeah. I thank you so much for your participation to Rope No Lie, because we really need to listen to your story, to listen to what and how you care about the rope.
Thank you, Mateo.
Yes, man, amazing effort. You're inspiring me again, and I want rope flow to be legitimate. I mean, literally, I want it to be in textbooks. I want it to be talked about in medical symposiums.
You have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the know-how to do this.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much again. Thank you to stay here with me. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
I hope we help people with this kind of video. We have
Yeah.
practice and share the floor.